Hi and welcome back to Bounce Forward. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm recording this podcast, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to elders past and present. Now, there's been a bit of Gladiator buzz recently with documentaries and remakes. It's all been very exciting. Today, I wanted to chat to you about my experience as a gladiator and tell you the 3 biggest lessons I learned from this time, because a lot of people have been reaching out to me, asking questions, wanting to know the behind-the-scenes stuff, and I guess it's a bit of fun to talk about, so here goes. Let's start with how I became a gladiator. That's like the number one question people ask me. At the time, I was fresh out of uni with a journalism degree and doing an internship at a paper. At this point in my life, although I was PTing on the side and taking boot camps, teaching fitness classes and taekwondo classes, I thought I'd become a journalist. 2007, it wasn't so common to be a full-time personal trainer. One day, my boyfriend at the time challenged me to an audition for a fitness TV show to see who was fitter, me or him. We went along to the audition, and I didn't know the fitness TV show was Gladiators when I auditioned. It was all very top secret. The audition process was pretty grueling. Lots of fitness tests, a bit of combat training, and I remember being handed a giant-sized earbud whacker thingy and told to knock over my opponent. Bang, bang, bang. It was fun, silly, but the fitness level stuff, it was insane. I was offered the part pretty quickly. I got through the ranks of the fitness tests and reached out to a former gladiator I knew for some tips. The former gladiator I knew was Glacier from the previous Australian series. Glacier had gone on to be Russell Crowe's personal trainer for the movie Gladiator and some of his more physical roles. Glacier, her real name is Lorraine Bavart, was a steely, tall, strong woman who I'd met in my parents' taekwondo school. She had sought out my father to train her in taekwondo. She already had many karate titles under her black belt, but wanted to compete in taekwondo too. What a weapon. I'd met her and she was ice cool. She looked like a gladiator and what I'd had in mind gladiators should be. They didn't look like me. I was 163 centimetres tall, itty bitty. She told me a great hang tough tip for playing the game hang tough and advised I should put on some more muscle for protection against the hits. Now that made me nervous. I was really nervous about this gig, but I quit my internship and relocated to Sydney, where the Gladiator gang moved into a hotel in Olympic Park, ready to start Gladiator boot camp. One of the questions I'm asked a lot by Gladiator fans is, how did we get our names? The producers actually gave us our names. We didn't get to choose them, unfortunately. There was a presentation name ceremony type thing, and we were all handed a golden envelope with our names inside. And with bated breath, I opened my envelope and it said Angel, and I was disappointed. I really wanted something tough, like Battle Axe, but I got Angel. Then it was time for makeover. Yes, there was actually a makeover thing within the Gladiator boot camp. And there were a few different looks considered for Angel. Boxing cornrows, different wings, but the producers settled on silver boy-cut lycra undies with a navy belt, a silver halter-neck bra, boxing boots, my hair out, laced with feathers, and a set of mechanical wings I wore in special promos and special events. And they said I had descended from heaven and I was ready to fly. It was very surreal. My father wasn't that impressed with my outfit, I'll tell you that. From acting classes to combat classes, we entered Gladiator boot camp. And to be honest, the first week I wanted to go home. It was way too intense for me, and I felt way too little to compete. I couldn't see over the pyramid steps, let alone get up them. I was way too small, more like a fairy than a gladiator, despite producers' best efforts to beef me up with regular protein meals they had provided for me. Since I was hopeless in the gauntlet and on the pyramid, I was given all the aerial games. This suited me much better. Much, much better than the strength games. With my mechanical wings, I guess I was destined to rule the skies. The games I played were pendulum, the big netted ball, the rings, which was hang tough, speed climbing called the wall, and the tall poles that swayed from side to side called vertigo. I was so afraid of heights though. I had to work really hard to overcome my fear just to play the games. But I did pretty well at them because of my taekwondo training. I knew how to break falls safely from really high up, so I was able to look after the competitors and I was able to never injure anyone, which I felt so happy about, and I really to this day am so thankful for my break fall training. Was the training grueling? Yep. Some sessions would start out with 100 burpees. I'd be close to vomiting. Training really pushed me physically and we all trained together, so no one wanted to look weak in front of Thunder or Scar. It was no pain, no gain training, not much recovery, and I look back at it now and I'm really proud of the fitness industry for moving away from this kind of training. No prehab, no recovery, but now the fitness industry, we do talk about recovery, we do talk about prehab, we do talk about looking after your body and a proper training program. It's not just smash training. Now, there was no social media back then. Can you imagine? So it was hard to know how to play the games. The games took hours to set up, so it wasn't like we could just practice all day in the arena on Hang Tough or be in the gauntlet and just play around and get to know the games. I practiced on a set of gymnastic rings in a gym, mostly for Hang Tough. But most of it came down to my speed and agility as an athlete that I already had. I had to trust that my fitness base could get me there. Some of the games like Vertigo, I'd only had one tryout before we filmed. What did the network feed me? This is such a good question. I'm asked this so often. Meals were provided for by the show. They were tiny portions of protein in plastic containers that you had to eat. And it was so weird because you'd be in the middle of your day and then a runner would come out and just hand you a little box and you would eat the meal in no matter what you're doing. If it was an interview or training, you had to eat this meal on time. I was on a muscle building program, so my meals were very high protein. I couldn't possibly put on enough muscle to look like a gladiator in time for filming. So we decided to rip me up instead, and this on camera would give the illusion of bigger muscles, even though in real time it meant I was losing weight. So, the 3 lessons I learned as a gladiator, they may surprise you. Being on the aerial events, I underestimated this, but the first thing I learned was the importance of the hang. Grip strength. How long can you hang from the monkey bars or a chin-up bar? Have you ever tried? It turns out your grip strength, the amount of force you have when you clench your hand around an object, is a huge indication of your overall health. Your grip strength is important for more than having a strong handshake or being able to open a jar. Researchers call grip strength an indispensable biomarker for adults. In other words, the strength you hold in your hands, wrists, and forearms says a lot about how healthy you are. It's also an indication of your risk for injury, mental health conditions, and much more. Grip strength naturally begins to decline around the age of 50. People who maintain their grip strength age more slowly. They stay healthier longer and are stronger throughout their bodies. I'd never really thought about it, but you can't get strong without good grip strength. A study from 2014 measured grip force production and wrist action and how the muscles in the forearms and fingers contribute. In this study, 7 males and 3 females around 25 were tested with a barbell simulating apparatus, increasing and decreasing in size. The grip force of the subjects decreased by 25% over time. This experiment suggests that more grip strength leads to less required power to move the apparatus. Therefore, you can deduce that someone who has a stronger grip requires less force to move an object. So the stronger the grip strength, the heavier you can lift. And the heavier you can lift, the more longevity you have. I'd never worked on my grip strength before Hang Tough. But as it was my main game, I had to improve my grip strength really fast. And the best way was just hanging from a bar. So if you're ever near a bar, monkey bars or a chin-up bar, just hang and see if you can get 30 seconds and then build to a minute and then maybe build to 2 minutes. It's the best way to improve your grip strength fast. The second thing I learned was all about visualization. I was terrified of heights, so I really relied on visualization to help me prep to play the games. There's one thing about being 8 meters in the air. It's another when you're wrestling with someone. I felt sick every time I had to play Vertigo. Vertigo was a one-on-one race between contender and gladiator across 5 27-foot, 8.3 metre poles. On the whistle, the competitors climbed to the top of the first pole. Once at the top, they swung their pole and used momentum to transfer across the next pole. I would sit in the dressing room and visualise the sway of the poles, my steady footing, every single movement my body would make to try and calm my nervous system. It took a lot of meditating, kind of visualisation to get out there, but I swear it made such a difference to my performance. I also used it a lot in Hang Tough, where it was like a game of chess. Every move you made, your opponent would try to sneak through. So there was no room for error. I would visualise the way I wanted my opponent to move so I could block them. And every time, it worked. The third thing I learnt from Gladiators was that I got leaner by eating more, not less, and by doing less cardio, not more. Crazy, right? At this time, I wasn't about counting calories, but macros. I ate a high protein meal every 4 hours. I threw away the scales and instead focused on DEXA scans to get a full picture of my body composition. Decrease calories and you might lose fat, but you might lose muscle instead. Increase calories and you might gain fat, but you might gain muscle too. The type of activity you do and the amount of protein you eat can determine the outcome. This is why combining strength training with a moderate protein intake is so powerful in achieving your desired results. Eating enough protein means more satiety, you're full for longer, a better body composition, and a higher metabolic rate. Eating more protein also suppresses hunger and appetite for longer than eating the same amount of other macros like fats and carbs. This means if you eat 100 calories in the form of grilled chicken breast, for example, you'll be fuller for longer than if you eat 100 calories in the form of crackers or olives. I knew none of this before I became a gladiator, but it was one of the most important lessons I could learn. Eat more protein, and I still do to this day. So, there's an earful of some of the weird and wonderful things that happened to me on Gladiators. If you like this episode, please let me know. DM me on Instagram at tiffhall_xo. And if you love this app, then please don't forget to rate and review my podcast wherever you get your podcasts. I really love talking to you. Thanks for listening and happy days.
Julie's coming up against the gladiator who's very much at home in the sky, Angel.